Eat, sleep, bet, repeat. That's how we get down on the opening line at EliteSportsBetting.com. I'll be your host, Benny Ricciardi, and today we're going to talk a little bit of XFL action as we do every Thursday here. So I got my man Tyler with me here from Fantasy Guru site. Tyler, what's going on this morning, bro?
What's up, Benny? Week 3 was a pretty good week. We had 3 of the 4 games pegged. It's just that last one, that DC game, completely fell flat and kind of blew a bunch of the parlays that we had going. But other than that, it was a pretty good week. Went as assumed, so that's pretty good that we were 3 weeks in and we have a pretty good base of how to project games going forward.
Yeah, no, that is pretty good. And I've had some pretty profitable weeks in week 1 and week 2. I hit a bunch of the early bets with the stuff that we talked about last week. But my biggest problem is last week I kind of went all in on DC because I've loved them so far this year and it made me money. And, man, that worked out about as bad as it possibly could have. I think the final score was 39-9. Again, we talked about LA having the toughest schedule to start the year so far. They look like they're a pretty good team, though. I mean, they took care of business last week. So we'll talk about them in a minute. Actually, we'll talk about them right now because that's the first game that's up here. We have LA this week coming to New York, coming to my hometown to not really my hometown. I don't live in New York. Fuck that place. But close enough in New Jersey, which is where their stadium is. Coming on to take on my hometown New York Guardians here. The Wildcats, 7.5-point road favorites. 39.5 is the total here. I mean, listen, they lost to Houston and Dallas, 2 of the better teams in the league. And then they beat DC, who everybody had as the favorite to win the whole thing here. The Guardians beat Tampa Bay, who's pretty much the worst team in the league. And then they got rolled by DC and St. Louis, two of the good teams in the league here. So, I mean, just by looking at, that, it looks like this is a game LA should wind up running away with.
Yeah, this 7-point spread, you said 7.5 where you're looking. I think it's an easy one for you to take right now. I hit it at 6.5. I think it's a smart bet right there, even up to 7.5, just because this New York Guardians offense just can't get things going. We saw last week they rolled out 3 different quarterbacks. They just kind of dinked and dunked and didn't have much success. So I love this Wildcats offense here with a healthy Josh Johnson. I mean, his thigh injury is still bothering him. We're not seeing him rush the ball yet, but he's still dominating as far as throwing the ball downfield. He has a league-leading 7.8 yards per attempt, 23.7% deep rate. So the guy's not afraid to throw downfield. We saw him connect several times with Trey McBride last week, who came out of nowhere. Like I mentioned on last week's show that I thought Saeed Blacknail would be the a DFS like punt that people could go to. Blacknail was ruled inactive right before the game, and it was McBride that actually did it. So we had the right role. We just got the wrong receiver based on inactives. But the process was right. So that's reassuring at least.
Yeah, no, exactly. And this game has a 39.5 total, which is not that high. And I get it because I don't expect the Guardians to score that much, but I kind of feel like the Wildcats can. So, I like the 39.5 total. I'll probably stay away from it because I mean, the Guardians offense has looked so bad. You kind of mentioned it, thinking and dunking, like not really moving the ball at all. Like I could see this being like a 27-9 kind of game, right?
Right. It could flirt right around that 39 number, but I don't think it hits it either. I'm avoiding it too in terms of over-unders. Like they have such a great downfield receiver in Mikhail McKay. They just cannot get him the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He was their second-round draft pick in their phase 1 draft, and he's played on over 93% of the snaps. They just cannot get him the ball. He has 7 receptions through 3 games. It's just a travesty how they're not using him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it comes down to quarterback play. Whatever level you're talking about, the NFL, college football, even the XFL, we're starting to see. It really does come down to quarterback play. The teams that have the good quarterbacks are the ones that are consistently winning games here. And the teams that don't have a good quarterback, you struggle and you can't move the ball. And that's, pretty much the same way at every level of football at this point. All right, so let's talk about the next game here. We got the Seattle Dragons going in to face the St. Louis Battlehawks. The Dragons, not really a good team. They lost to DC. They lost to Dallas. They beat Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay sucks, so that doesn't really prove anything. St. Louis, though, they beat Dallas. They beat New York. Their only loss was a close loss to a good Houston team, 28-24. I mean, I know they're an 11-point favorite here, which is a lot of points. I'm not going to lie, but I really like this St. Louis team. I think they're a little underrated.
Absolutely. Last week was the only week we did not offer a futures bet, but at that time, St. Louis was plus 1,000 to take it all. And I almost recommended it on the show, but I didn't think we wanted to cover 3 out of the 8 teams as future winners. It feels a little like spreading ourselves thin.
Yeah, if we bet on 50% of the field, it's not really the point of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, they're a very, very competent offense. They lead the league in rushing the ball. A lot of that has to do with Tamu's rushing that he's been doing. But last week, they just rolled, had no problem racking up the rushing production between the two running backs that they have there, Matt Jones and Christine Michael. We saw Matt Jones. He's still kind of dealing with a lingering injury. He's been on the injury reports, I think, each of the past 2 or 3 weeks now. But he's still suiting up for game days. So he's fighting through whatever he's going through. But yeah, these guys are just absolutely rolling. Over the last 2 weeks, 30-plus touches for each of Matt Jones and Christine Michael. So like this tandem of running backs, like they're just absolutely dominating in terms of rushing the ball. They're not getting a lot of targets though. The backfield for St. Louis is getting a league low 7.7% of the targets to the running backs. So they're not best for DFS plays in that sense because you're not really getting that target floor.
Right.
And they're almost touchdown or bust kind of plays. But in terms of this game, just overall outlook, I think the Battlehawks cruise to this 12-point spread. It's a really high number, though. And we've seen Seattle put up some competitive numbers. Like Brandon Silvers is their quarterback. He's been a little inconsistent, but he did throw for 3 touchdowns against the Defenders in week 1. So there's a reason why I'm not taking the 12 points here. I'd rather parlay the money line of St. Louis with LA, like a team that we're a lot more confident in.
Yeah.
And
that actually makes a lot of sense. I'm the same way. I mean, 11 points is a lot. Like, you know, there aren't many sites even that are offering teasers on the XFL right now with so few, you know, games and I guess, you know, so few teams, so few money on it. But if you can find somewhere that does offer like a teaser or something like that, you know, if you could tease this down to like 6 or 5, like I would feel much better about it there because I do think they win by over a touchdown.
Yes, I agree with that. I haven't seen teasing available, but I have limited books where I am.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There are like I don't think DraftKings and FanDuel allow you to do it, but there are some of the other online books where, you know, they'll take any bet. If you're willing to put money down, they'll figure out a way to get your money out of you. So if you have one of those, that would be some way to do it. Otherwise, I do like what Tyler's talking about where you just kind of parlay the money line, even with like the LA Wildcats at -7 or something like that. You'll get a little bit more, bang for your buck out of something like that there. Anything with the total here, 38.5?
No, it's another one where I just want to avoid it because we've seen the Battlehawks they lead the league in total plays run, and they're very content just rushing the ball, milking the clock.
Yeah.
We anticipated a lot of the XFL teams being up in pace. The Battlehawks are not one of them, though.
Yeah, they're kind of the the anti-narrative basically kind of team.
Right.
And you know what? It's been working for them because
they're just happy rushing the ball with the lead. That's fine. It's working for them.
All right, so let's go to the next game. We got the Houston Roughnecks, 3-0 Houston Roughnecks. They beat LA, they beat St. Louis, they beat Tampa Bay, taking on the Dallas Renegades, who lost that opening game to St. Louis, and then they beat Seattle and LA in their next 2 games right here. Again, they didn't have their starting quarterback in that game, so things a little bit different now. This is the fireworks game of the weekend, we'll call it. 50.5 total in this one. The Roughnecks 3-0. Favored by 1.5 on the road. So, I mean, this game is basically kind of like a pick'em, right?
Absolutely, yeah. This is going to be one of the most exciting games of the week. 50.5 total, as you said. It started at 48.5, so we've already seen that climb 2 points. I don't think we're going to see many games climb throughout the rest of the XFL season in terms of totals. But this was done, one you could have hit early, but I don't think you really want to pursue 50-point totals in the XFL.
Yeah. No, it's not something you're ever going to want to chase here. But
Right. It definitely could hit that, though. I wouldn't be shocked at all considering how well these offenses play. The Roughnecks, I think they're like 9 for 11 in the red zone. They're just completing almost all their drives for touchdowns. So they're just racking up points left and right. Philip Walker, you can make a case for him being the MVP. You can make a case for his wide receiver, Cam Phillips, for the MVP. 3 touchdowns back-to-back weeks. I mean, this offense is just clicking on all cylinders. Houston and Dallas, they're both essentially tied for the league rate in pass play percentage, as these teams both drop back to pass 72% of the time. So it's just going to be a passing shootout where I think both offenses click. If you're playing any kind of DFS, it's the game to stack with 1 or 2 ancillary pieces on other games. But this is what you want to pursue. And if you're playing, I think it's going to be a really fun slate for DFS showdowns, this particular game here, because there's just so many different ways for these teams to score. Nick Hawley is one of my favorite punts at 4,500. There's not a ton of value this week, especially if you're trying to jam in Cam Phillips and his elevated price tag, or Philip Walker, the quarterback there. Nick Hawley at 4,500, though, he's second on the team in routes run and snaps played among all wideouts. So I think he's a good source of salary savings there. But this is going to be a fun game to watch. I'm really excited for this one, especially because I think Dallas can hang. We saw Donald Parham score 2 touchdowns last week.
Yep.
He's their big 6'8" tight end that we've talked about time
Yeah,
and time again.
he was on my fantasy team after our discussion last week.
Absolutely, yeah. He was in my cash lineup, and I think I had him in almost 80% of lineups just because he was so underpriced. They appropriately priced him up. I think he got like almost a 4K bump in price tag this week on DraftKings. So he's no longer the
yeah, it's easy to fit.
yeah. I have to give kudos to DraftKings. It's actually challenging this week to put together a solid lineup. I'm still working through my dummy lineups right now, and I have yet to find what I'm comfortable with in terms of cash.
Right.
But like I said, Houston, Dallas, this is going to be the shootout of the week. You definitely want parts of this game.
Yeah, and if you guys are playing any kind of fantasy, whether it be season long or daily fantasy for XFL, you can find Tyler, Armando, Jeff Mans. All these guys are over at fantasyguru.com on the website over there. They're breaking these games down. They're giving you depth charts. They're giving you, their favorite plays for the week. I think Mans is doing his cash game breakdown like he did for the NFL season as well. So definitely make sure you guys get over there and sign up. If you get the VIP package, not only do you get the XFL stuff, but you also get all the baseball stuff with, guys like Vlad and Ray Flowers and all the other guys over there, as well as these guys contributing as well to the baseball package. So there's a lot of stuff going on over there. Make sure you get over there, fantasyguru.com, and you can get all this information so you can win all your fantasy games as well. And that brings us to the last game here, Tyler. We got the DC Defenders, Tampa Bay Vipers. DC beat New York and Seattle, lost bad to LA last week. But, I mean, listen, it was one game. This is the team that we both liked and everybody kind of thought was going to be the champs, or at least had the best case for it. Shortest odds to win it as of last week, before the beatdown, of course. I don't know what it is now. I haven't looked yet this week. But they're taking on a Tampa Bay team that so far has just basically sucked, right? Like they lost to New York, who's not really one of the better teams in the league. They lost to Seattle, who's also not one of the better teams in the league. But then they lost to Houston, which everybody's doing right now, although they actually probably played arguably their best game against Houston last week.
Right. Houston's defense isn't that spectacular, which is why I think Dallas can hang in that game. But looking just at this game, DC versus Tampa Bay, we actually saw the line open with Tampa Bay +1, which was really surprising. I'm sorry, DC Defenders +1, where they were not the favorites. So I jumped on that one with 2 units real quickly. We've seen that line move to -2.5 now for DC. So that's been a 3.5 swing since I think Tuesday was when those lines opened. So definitely make sure you have alerts on for the Elite Sports Betting Twitter account. Like as soon as somebody posts something there for any of our sports, you get a Twitter notification. And it's best to jump on the lines early in the week, because
the Twitter account is at Elite Alerts. For those of you who don't know, you can get over there and like Tyler's saying, anytime somebody makes a change or puts something in the bet package, you'll get an alert on Twitter and it'll let you know what's going on there.
Absolutely, yeah. And DC +1 was definitely one to jump on. We've seen the total stay stagnant around 44, but I think overall this is going to be a game where the defenders bounce back. Like you said, the Vipers, they're 0-3, but they've allowed a league high 74 points to date. I think it's a get-right spot for the defenders, where just everything goes the complete opposite direction of week 3. All of their passing guys are in play for me. Rashad Ross, Eli Rogers, DeAndre Tompkins. Cardale Jones, I think, is going to get overlooked after 4 interceptions. He makes it an interesting tournament play. I just don't respect this Vipers defense that much. I think we can see DC rack up points here. Tampa Bay, their quarterback situation's been kind of a mess this week. Quentin Flowers is taking a leave of absence. He will not be playing. Aaron Murray, they're still worried about his foot injury, especially with him dropping back during any kind of DC blitzes. So I don't think they're going to start with him. We have official word that Taylor Cornelius will start for the Vipers this week.
Okay.
He was just kind of okay last week. He had 16 for 31, about 51% completion rate, just shy of 200 yards. He did pick up a rushing touchdown. So there's some potential for them to keep it close. And I think the spread indicates that, where I don't think the Vipers put up 0 points. I think they'll be able to put up a few. We've seen one other notable thing is they've had a really tight rotation among their top 3 wide receivers: Jalen Tolliver, Daniel Williams, Reese Horn. They're all top 5 in routes run. They're all top 10 in targets. So this passing offense is pretty much just going through those 3 guys. That being said, the CFL product, SJ Green, he's been a healthy scratch the last 2 weeks. I think he's slated to start this week. The team waived Shontavis Jones and then brought him back as well. So perhaps we see some more rotation between the 3 receivers. But tight end Nick Truesdell, he's also going to be likely out this week. He's had a doubtful designation all week due to injury. So I think we're going to see one of these three receivers be a really strong play. Last week it was Jalen Tolliver, 13 targets. I think we could see another Tampa Bay Viper guy stepping up here again this week.
All right, so I'll put you on the spot then. If you have to choose between the three, which one are you leaning?
I'm going to go with Tolliver again. It's chasing the 13 targets, but he's priced at just $6K. That's a big discount compared to Daniel Williams, who's at $7,800. And I have no problem chasing targets in a league where that's where you want to.
Yeah, I mean, it's in any league when you're playing kind of fantasy, you're looking for, opportunity, targets, touches. I mean, that's the stuff that leads to fantasy points. Might not always lead to fantasy points, especially when, Matt McGlynn is throwing the passes to you. But at some point, you figure the more opportunity you get, guys are going to start, making some of those catches, making some of those plays and putting up some good numbers there. All right, so we went through these all. Let me put you on the spot one more time here. You're a small bettor who's following this, watching this video, trying to make enough money to sign up for the Elite VIP package over at EliteSportsBetting.com. What's the one bet you think people should have their money on this week?
I'm going to go DC minus 2.5. I think they bounce back here. Less than a field goal is just way too good for this Defenders team. The Vipers, they have a 20% success rate so far in the red zone, and all of that came last week. Prior to that, they were 0 for whatever the number was. So this Vipers team has struggled putting together drives and finishing them with touchdowns. I think the Defenders cover that 2.5 spread, and I'd take it up to 3.
I would actually take it up to 6, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
When you have a line that moves in football from across the zero, it's really not that big a move. Like, it's not getting up to any key numbers or anything like that. But I even think they can win by more than a field goal here. I'll go one further than that if you guys are really trying to make a little bit of a score this week. I like the LA Wildcats a lot to beat the New York Guardians as well with that minus 7.5. So parlay those two together. Take LA, lay the 7.5 with them. Take GC, lay the 2.5 with them. Parlay the two of them together. Throw $100 on it, and when you win, you're going to win about $200. And then you got the money to go and sign up for the Elite VIP package. So there you go right there. Everything all nice, tied up in one little bow. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
If you want to make even more money, I'd throw the Battlehawks money line in there and parlay the three of them, because these are the three bets I'm most confident in. LA spread, DC spread, and then St. Louis money line.
All right, so there you go. Now you can sign up for the betting package and have some cash to make your first bets that first week after that as well. So for Tyler, this is Benny signing off for another episode of The Opening Line.